All right, buddy, we are live. Welcome in. Latest episode of that SEC podcast brought to you by Twisted Tea and My Bookie. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who's freaking me out over here. What's up? Happy Halloween, buddy.
Hey, man, what's going on?
I was not expecting this. I'm going to go. Let's go close in on you real quick here.
Good, because I can't see like a shit out of this thing. All right. That's enough. Yeah, happy Halloween, man. I tell you what. There's little kids everywhere. On my way over here is like dodging. But anyway, be safe out there. Obviously don't be watching this and driving. But
or maybe just put it on mute, We watch you watching.
Absolutely. No, this is my youngest, this is one of her favorite holidays. So she's been all out on this, getting ready to rock and roll, and they got some things planned. But we also got a couple of crazy little things happening tonight, Mike.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's why we're doing this special show. They just had the playoff reveal here. We got some outstanding games, Shane, to talk about here. So let's get into the rankings real quick.
Okay.
College football playoff rankings. First ones of the year. I got the top 10, or I got all the SEC. Which do you
Let's
prefer?
do top 10. Let's see
top 10.
What
Okay.
shitty teams snuck in the top 10.
I'm going to start at number 10. This
Okay.
would be like because Shane hadn't seen these.
I haven't seen them.
This is like our own little rankings reveal right here. Number 10.
Yeah.
Ole Miss Rebels.
Ooh.
You like that?
I like it. I think it's a little lower than it should be, but again, you can start at 10 at this point in the season and find your way in 4 at the end of it. So
right.
You're in this top 10, you're in good shape right now. So Ole Miss fans got to be happy with that.
All right, number 9, Shane. Oklahoma Sooners.
Look at that, another we claimed SEC team here. I think that would be awesome too. Another one.
Yep.
I don't think you or I or a lot of the fans would be dissatisfied to see in that top 4. So I like this. We're off to a good start, Mike.
Yeah, SEC heavy, brother. Number 8.
Yeah.
Alabama Crimson Tide.
Oh man. Yeah, Saban hasn't done his propaganda video yet, so I expect him to move up pretty quick here. But hey, this is big, man. Bama again, 8th spot. I think you're right there where you can create I hate to say it, but you create your own path, your own destiny, win after win. But Alabama truly is sitting in the captain's seat there in the West, and as long as they win out, there's no way they're not making a college football playoff this year.
Yep. All right. How about number 6, Shane?
Yeah.
The Fighting Bo Nixes up there in Oregon.
Oh, here's where we start to venture off, right? Well, it's a fun story. Don't get me wrong. I think, we all remember one game at least, the Colorado matchup.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't even know their record. I'd assume they're undefeated if they're this high.
No, that one loss. Highest one loss is Oregon.
Oh, well, who'd they lose to?
Alabama? Number 5, Washington. Washington's undefeated. So
okay, that shows you how biased I am to the SEC. I truly do not watch anything outside.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Shane, we've watched this team. We got about a week's worth of views from this fan base. You have a clue who I'm talking about?
A week's Florida State.
Florida State, number 4, undefeated right now. That'll probably change once they play the Florida Gators. But, man, if the playoffs started today, Florida State be in it.
Yeah, no, I like this, man. I think that's I'm not bashing the Florida State because, LSU had an opportunity to knock them off, and they didn't do it. And being undefeated over there, as long as it's not Clemson, I'm okay with it.
Oh, yeah.
Because still, they got to face the Gators. They still could potentially face one of these other SEC teams in the top 4. So, you definitely want them in there.
Number 3, Shane.
Yeah.
The Sign Stealers, Michigan over here, undefeated. Oh, we got too much Big Ten in here. You know what?
Ooh. getting a little muddy in here now. Yeah, absolutely. A little too many khakis for my liking. You know what I'm saying?
So number 2,
Yeah.
we'll get to Mizzou in a minute, but rest in peace. Georgia Bulldogs. They didn't get no respect. Kirby's got it all over the locker room.
There it is.
We ain't even number 1. Just like last year, they were foolish enough to put Tennessee up there. Oh, this is the worst thing that could have happened to Mizzou. You know what?
This was terrible timing for that because, Kirby likes that propaganda. He likes to get them all fired up. He did this with Coach Mullen. It's one of the first things he talked about after the game.
Yep.
So it means something to him, and he uses it as ammunition. So that's not good for Mizzou. But it is. I think it is good for the Georgia Bulldogs to not take their foot off the gas.
Yeah. And then the biggest joke of all, Shane, number 1, Ohio State. Come on.
Jeez Louise. Come on. We do it every year. Do it, don't we? We play this game like, we got to let them in. We got to let 1 or 2 of them in or they'll start crying about it.
Yeah.
And then, it's 30, 40 points later in a college football playoff. And we're out at halftime eating at Applebee's. Wondering why the hell we wasted our gas money to come up here.
Yeah, you said it well, my friend. And real quick, so we got a couple other SEC teams that didn't make quite the top 10. Mizzou, number 12. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, that's, again, a team that was not in the top 25 for how long in the AP poll, now being recognized as the 12th best in the country. And same thing I said about Alabama, you could say the exact same damn thing about Mizzou. Just win out and you'll be there.
Yeah, shout out Heath on the live chat, Shane. Georgia spread against Missouri just jumped to minus 34. He's talking about the ranking, of course.
Absolutely.
But how about this one, Shane? LSU?
Yeah.
Number 14. So a far cry from the top 4, but you're playing number 8 this week.
Right.
A real opportunity to potentially make a jump.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the Tigers at number 14?
Yeah, LSU's they gotta have some stuff go their way, but again, they got some big games ahead of them. And a lot of the ones that we've already mentioned. Alabama is the big one coming up this weekend, so there's definitely going to be a shift in this ranking system come this time next week.
Yeah, and then last but not least, your Tennessee Vols, Shane, number 17 in the rankings. How about that?
I like it. It's always good to see Tennessee in the top 20. That's where they belong. Sometimes I'd like to have a bad year and say, hey, well, we got 17th, I don't want it to be like honorable mention and, nobody even talking about you. So, hey, we're having a little bit of a rough season here and still top 20. I think I'll take that.
Yeah, so let's just play a little game here real quick, Shane. So Mizzou's number, 12.
Yeah.
Right? Number 12. Georgia's number 2.
Mm-hmm.
If Mizzou beats number 2,
yeah,
how high should they climb in the poll?
Oh, man, I think, this is not how it works, but how it should.
Mm-hmm.
And if a number 12 goes to number 2's home field and beats them, then they should just flip-flop, man, in my opinion. But we all know that's not what's going to happen here. So if Mizzou does beat Georgia, I think they land in the 7-8 spot, somewhere around there, which is dumb. They may even still be behind Georgia. It wouldn't blow my mind if they did something like that.
Yeah. All right, so same question to you, Shane. Number 14, LSU.
Yeah.
At number 8, Alabama. How high would you jump LSU, which has 2 losses, but
yeah,
that would be a hell of a win.
Are they the highest 2-loss team?
I'm not sure.
It don't matter. They should be after that. If they beat Alabama, I would say 9, somewhere around there, right? Maybe even 8. I mean,
because they got a hell of a resume, Shane. Who have they lost to? They lost to number 4 and number 10.
Yeah,
it's not like they have a bad loss.
Absolutely,
and both of those away from home.
Yeah,
I mean, one was a neutral field in Orlando, but still away from home.
Right. Yeah.
So that's not a bad loss to me.
I'm in on that.
I'm good. Yeah. I'm glad you're in on it.
You talked me into it. I believe you.
All right. Well, speaking of LSU, that's what we don't care about this damn poll. It's going to change hands many times over. But we wanted to get this content out as soon as we possibly could.
It's important though, because at the end of the year, even like last year, there was a lot of teams, my Vols included, begging, for an opportunity to get in here.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see how respected you are at this point in the season. So, and when you see some of these programs, you feel like they're getting maybe a little more respect than they deserve, and some maybe not so much. So this is a good test, but something that they update weekly, and like you said, this point 3 weeks from now, it's going to look totally different.
Right. And would you have preferred Shane last? I mean, it's always easier in hindsight to talk about this stuff, but would you have preferred Georgia being number 1, Tennessee coming in at 2, 3, 4, whatever, but instead of flip-flopping it, Tennessee number 1, Georgia, I can't even remember what they were. I think they were like 3 or something. Would you have preferred that? Because you're saying it doesn't matter, or you're saying it does matter, or I said it doesn't matter, but I think it does kind of matter for like Mizzou this week.
Yeah.
I think there is something to it.
I think when not all games though, Missouri and Georgia, which we'll get to, neither one of those guys are overlooking each other. Again, we've got what'd you say, 12th and 2?
Yeah.
That's nobody's overlooking this matchup. They know it's going to be a big one. But, when you have that one spot and you go to a place like Columbia, South Carolina, you may overlook it a little bit because you're the biggest, baddest dude in town,
Yeah.
and mistakes are made. So, I think that's where a lot of these programs are, is just, you got to be careful. Any given Saturday, something can go wrong. And, I would be more worried on this list playing a team that wasn't on this list.
Yeah. Hey, we appreciate you, Rusty. We just got a $5 donation.
Thank you, Rusty.
From Rusty. He's got 2 questions for us.
Halloween candy after this. My wife, she goes, we didn't have anything. And I hate to say this, she was like, do we turn on? We have like a big pack of bubble gum, these individual things. Cause I like chew bubble gum, when we go to the softball games and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, what kid wants to, how disappointed would you? You worked hard on your costume. You get up the driveway and you find there's nothing but bubble gum. I said, just turn the light off, So
I would have handed out bubble gum.
She likes bubble gum, but would you consider that like you know what I'm saying?
As long as you ain't handing fruit out, you're okay in my book.
When I was growing up, that was like, there was a big scare, and I don't even know if this is true, but like, don't you eat no damn apples, there's a razor blades in them, So, no, growing up where I was, we were poor East Tennessee, so most of the time you got one of those little orange wrapper butterscotch things. You remember, it's orange and a brown wrap. I don't even know if they make them. They may be illegal in 4 states, but they don't expire. If you have them, they're still there. And I remember those being passed out. And then every now and then you'd find like a little Snickers bar, and you're just like, holy shit, we hit the rich neighborhood, That's what I was like. We always went to Morristown for those.
All right, but back to Rusty.
Sorry.
He's got 2 questions. I don't think we're going to handle the first one.
Yeah.
He wants an early prediction. Ole Miss, A&M, who wins? But here's the second part.
Yeah.
Does College Game Day come to Athens if Ole Miss this weekend, they got to beat A&M, and Georgia beats Mizzou? I think you got to come.
Why would you not?
That's the game of the week,
absolutely.
Right? Ole Miss at
Kirby and Lane. Come on now, that sells tickets, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And I will say this: I think it depends more on how they win this week too. If Georgia squeaks one out or Ole Miss, I'm not saying that won't happen, but if they just beat the shit out of these teams, then you're looking at 2 of the best in the country. So give me that.
Yeah, that's the top 10 matchup. I'm looking at some of the others. Utah, which is 18, Washington 5,
boring.
Southern Cal, Oregon. They both have lost. Tennessee at Mizzou, but again, in his scenario, Mizzou just lost, so you ain't going there.
Tennessee would be a heavy favorite too,
Michigan at Penn State. That could be an interesting one, but no, give me Ole Miss, Georgia.
I think you're going Ole Miss,
we got
Georgia.
Back-to-back chance. We got to give them some damn respect.
Where are they
here.
at this week?
Alabama. LSU,
okay.
Alabama.
All right, well, then they don't have to go too far.
Yep.
That makes sense. You see how I pay attention, Mike? Literally.
And according to Heath, again, we don't verify any statistics given to us, so this could be wrong. But according to Heath, Shane, the only initial playoff rankings you know, that has had a number one. They all have a number one.
Yeah.
But the only one that went on to win the national championship, according to Heath, Alabama during the COVID year, which that year didn't count. That's another evidence that year was just garbage, and we should take nothing from 2020. But so basically, according to Heath, Ohio State ain't winning it, which we already knew that.
I love it. I love it. I hope fans keep sending you random statistics, and you just that looks real.
It's there. It's there. All right. How about let's get in these games, man?
Yeah.
So many great games here in the SEC this weekend. College game day. We just talked about it. I'm going by the playoff rankings now because they're the real rankings. Number 14 LSU at number 8 Alabama. Lowest point spread in this series, I think, since Nick Saban's been at Alabama. So it's going to be one hell of a game, Shane. We got the number 1 scoring offense efficiency in the SEC, LSU. We got the number 1 scoring defense efficiency, Alabama, going head to head. A lot on the line, Shane. Jaden Daniels, could he win the Heisman this weekend? I think that's on the table. I think if Alabama wins big, I think we put Jalen Milroe. You start seeing his name mentioned with the Heisman because I think he'll have earned it. We got those idiots that say it's a decaying dynasty. They're going to have a field day.
Speaking of clowns.
I mean, hell, last year was a classic. Brian Kelly finally got over Nick. What if Brian Kelly beats Saban 2 years in a row, this time in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah.
My God. I mean, talk about passing the torch, Shane. And how about this stat? I saw this week. There's only one quarterback, Shane. I bet you have no idea. One college quarterback that has beaten Nick Saban in back-to-back seasons. It's only been done by one quarterback, and he's a legend. He went on to the NFL as well. Massive success at the end. So I'm trying to give you some hints here. I still don't think you'll get it. But there's only one guy that's done it in college and as a starter.
As a starter.
Yeah.
All right. Only one quarterback that has done it as a starter.
Beat Nick Saban in back-to-back
seasons. Cam Newton.
Not even close, brother.
No. Tim Tebow.
Drew Brees.
Shit.
Purdue, Michigan State.
Oh,
we have to go back that far, though.
Damn.
But that tells you
this
how...
is one of those Afflecks. You got me, man. You know, you ever get those? And you're like, oh, I know this answer, and you put it, and then they give you some random like you didn't even get one of them right. So I'm sorry. Sorry.
But there's been some legends, like Joe Burrow couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You see Tim Tebow.
Johnny Football.
I mean, so many good guys. It's not happened. So Jane Daniels could be the second one and only the first SEC quarterback to do it. A lot on the line, Shane. Night game, CBS. It's going to kick off around 8 o'clock. This bad boy probably won't be over till midnight. You know what I mean? You know how CBS likes to stretch these things out. But this could be the game of the year in the SEC. Thoughts on LSU going to Alabama?
Well, again, we've been talking about this matchup since day one of this season. We knew that this potentially could be the deciding factor on the SEC championship. Not to mention, it's hard right now to make it to a college football playoff, and it's really hard for multiple SEC teams to do it because you're going to get these joker teams we just talked about, that haven't played anybody, and it's tough for them. They got an easier path, blah, blah, blah. But this one right here is the one that we keep finding our eyes on, and it doesn't matter if LSU's having a down year. Hell, Alabama's quote unquote not having they're kind of having a down year. Last year was kind of a down year, but we still, all eyes were on this game. And last year in particular, we walked away with a freaking barn burner, people storming the field. Yeah. That's college football, man. And so to think we're going to get anything different this year, no, I think it doesn't matter. Everybody's saying, Alabama won't be able to keep up with LSU, and there's others saying that LSU's, hasn't played a defense like Alabama. You can go round and round on this thing, but again, at the end of the day, we really don't know how this game's going to play out, and that's why this is why we're in. This is why this is the game of the week. I can't wait to see the highlights that come out of this one.
You'll appreciate this comment from Rusty Shackelford. Shout out Rusty on the YouTubes.
Oh yeah.
LSU, get ready for 0 penalties of consequence against you going against Alabama. That sounds about right. But yeah, I mean,
that's what we should have dressed up. And you're kind of like a ref, you know, because LSU's not going to see one of those guys this weekend.
But I don't know, Shane. How do you think? What's the recipe for LSU pulling an upset in this one? Is it almost too easy to say like a high scoring game with this LSU offense, which has got a legit Heisman candidate at quarterback, two of the best receivers in the SEC, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. They got one hell of a tight end, Mason Taylor. Of course, he caught. Everybody remembers the 2-point conversion that beat Bama, but he had one hell of a touchdown in that game too. Logan Diggs, their running backs, on fire. They got a great offensive line. So you put all this together, you'd think a high-scoring game kind of favors LSU.
Yeah.
Low-scoring game favors Alabama, I would have to think, with their dynamic defense. But I don't know. What's your thoughts? What is a path for LSU to win this game? Does it have to be high-scoring? Because it's easy to sit here and say, we can win a shootout.
Yeah.
But it's always more difficult, especially on the road against Nick Saban and this defense. I mean, putting up 28 points on them, that's easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, obviously, there's a little bit of a recipe out there, and it all stems back to offense. Alabama's got a great defense, and you're gonna see that when they go into game, like even the Tennessee football game, some adjustments, they were able to come back and just kind of shut down Joe Milton and those guys. But what was working the first half? Throwing the ball. And who's the best at it right now in the SEC? LSU. They got two of the top, 4 pass catchers in the league. I saw your little stat you put up earlier today,
Yeah.
That's who they are, and that's what is kind of like, I think, Alabama's kryptonite right now. So, yeah, I think the recipe's simple. High scoring. Keep your foot on the gas. There's going to be times you go 3 and out. But this is an offense that also in 6 plays can be in the end zone. So just you gotta keep hammering it and try to force the quarterback of Alabama, force Jalen to come out of his comfort zone and be the game changer. And he's getting better. Don't get me wrong. Every week you talk about a quarterback that is progressing. It's Jalen, but has he been asked to put up 35, 42 points in a game? No. So I think that's the answer there, Mike.
Yeah.
It sounds easy.
It does. And I asked, I was on a different show today, Shane, and I threw this out there. I want to throw it your way. Because we know Harold Perkins is elite.
Yeah.
We know Jalen Milroe. I don't think it's quite fair to call him elite yet, but he's got elite speed.
Right.
And he's an elite athlete. I'll go that far. Who do you think is, in a foot race? Because I would imagine that's got to be the game plan for LSU is Harold Perkins, wherever Milroe is, you follow his ass.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be that simple, but I think there's going to be, he's going to take off, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I think it could be one of those situations where Perkins, you don't make the tackle, he may be gone.
Yeah.
Who would you take in a foot race, Harold Perkins or Jalen Milroe?
Jalen Milroe
Would
right
you?
now. And one thing about that, something you mentioned a couple weeks ago about Jalen being banged up, and I never really thought about it, but watching him in some of these games where he's a little bit more conservative, he's starting. You can feel it. There was a little bit of that with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Him coming out of his comfort zone. Now he's had an extra week to prepare. Expect more quarterback runs. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they'll be, coached or planned or anything like that. It's going to probably be a little bit more ad lib, but that is a guy that it's easy to say, okay, you guard him. It's like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? It's like me guarding you. Yeah, it sounds good if you're going that way, but if you cut back, I'm fucked. So.
And how about this? I was thinking about this as well today, leading up to this one, Shane. Tennessee game, Bama was down. Texas A&M, Bama was down.
Yeah.
They made the adjustments at halftime. And sometimes they say halftime adjustments are overrated. But clearly Bama did that, at least in the Tennessee. They came right out, punched 2 plays, scored a touchdown. So I don't know. Even if LSU has a lead at halftime, that's going to be easy. That is not a given by any means. Thoughts on Nick Saban, Brian Kelly, those coaching staffs. Who do you have more confidence in to make the necessary adjustments late in the game if they have to?
Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Because, you could argue that Alabama should have more losses if they didn't have those halftime adjustments or game time adjustments. They don't even wait to half. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
sometimes they clean this stuff up after a successful drive from another opponent. LSU, you could argue that's why they have losses, because lack of adjustment. So if I'm picking one right now, yeah, I'm going Nick Saban, and it's not close.
Now, we did get another donation, $5. Appreciate you, Rendon Lane.
Thank you, cousin.
He's got a question here. Which SEC team, if they win out, will be in the top 6 of the playoff poll at the end of the season, but we cannot pick Georgia or Bama? So again, let's go down these real quick.
Win out and be in the top 6.
Yeah, I don't know why he's not saying top 4, because I think that's what you'd be shooting for. But
yeah, let's do top 4.
Okay, top 4. And again, not Georgia, not Bama. Because I think those are obvious. I think that's why he's saying that. So we got Ole Miss at 10, Missouri at 12, LSU 14, and Tennessee 17.
Mizzou. And it's just, again, Mizzou is undefeated. Missouri has not lost.
No, they lost to LSU.
Oh, shit. I didn't even count that game. I blocked it out.
What about Ole Miss? Because they would win.
Okay, wait.
They would win in Athens. And A&M.
But again, in this, you're still needing Alabama to lose.
Yeah.
Missouri, I keep going back to them, even though they're not undefeated. That's right. I forgot about LSU.
What about Tennessee? If they beat Mizzou, who's ahead of them, number 12, and they beat Georgia, number 2, would Tennessee jump that far?
The only way to get to top 4, I think, right now for any of these teams is to get through there by winning an SEC championship. So you have to get there.
Right.
Mizzou, that's why they jumped out at me, because if they win out, they're going to an SEC championship, and if they beat whoever that is, there's no way you're keeping them out of the top 4. Ole Miss is intriguing because, like you said, they still got some really big games coming up, including the Georgia Bulldogs. And if Georgia is undefeated at the time, man, it'd be tough. They're 10 now. So 6 spots, you're knocking one of them maybe potentially out. So
what if it's LSU who beat, they'd have to win at Bama.
Yeah.
A&M, they're not ranked, but it's a tough game. And then I guess beating number 2 or 1 Georgia in the SEC championship. And you'd be sitting there saying, well, who have they lost to? They lost to top 10 Ole Miss and top 4 Florida State. I think, hell, we can make a case for all these. But I think you're right. I think Missouri's the one, and I think LSU is the one too. Because Ole Miss needs help. They need Bama to lose twice.
Yeah.
Tennessee needs help.
Right.
They need Georgia to lose twice. So Tennessee and Ole Miss.
Let's go. I in this order. I'd go Mizzou.
Yeah.
I'd go LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee.
You hate the Vols.
I love the Vols.
I'm just kidding.
But I just don't have faith in Georgia losing twice.
Oh, yeah. No. Something crazy would have to happen.
So who would they? So they would have to. Well, I mean, in the scenario,
but they would beat them once, right? So
if they would have lost to Mizzou, and then Tennessee beat them.
Oh, that's your 2 losses right there.
All right, let me redo it. Oh man, see, that's why this year I love it, because it's nothing settled. A lot of times by this time when these first rankings come out, we got a good idea, unless somebody just screws up royally. Yeah. We pretty much know where we're going to be, but right now we got some excellent matchups coming up, including this weekend, that is just going to derail these pipe dreams.
Yeah, and people in the comments, Shane, they keep asking about SEC tiebreaker. Like if, let's say LSU beats Bama.
Yeah.
Then Bama has a loss in conference. Ole Miss has a loss in conference because they lost to Bama, and then LSU lost to Ole Miss, but they beat Bama. So we'd have a 3-way tie. How would that determine? That it's very tricky, Shane. But then they would say combined record amongst those teams head to head.
Yeah.
Which again would be another tie because they'd all be 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. So next tiebreaker, record of those three, how they did in the SEC West only. So you take out what they did in the East.
Yeah.
So that would be the next tiebreaker. And then I think it goes to how those teams did against the East. So, I mean, it gets pretty convoluted, but we can, and last but not least, Shane, if it gets to like a 8 tie.
Grade point average. Because they're college athletes.
They flip a coin. They flip a coin.
No way.
I swear that's that's never happened. But that's on. I'm looking at the SEC official website here. That's the very last tiebreaker.
All three of them. Well, let's just say it's down to 2. Wouldn't that?
I think if it got down to that point, it would be down to 2. But I don't.
How great would that be? I mean, I'm not wishing that. Well, I kind of am, but I mean, they would have to make it a spectacle. I would imagine.
James in the comments. Tiebreaker is whichever program makes Shane Beamer break his other foot.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So that'd be pretty wild. But hey, we got other games, brother.
Yeah.
Huge matchup here. The fans are dying for this one. Missouri, number 12, at number 2, Georgia. Huge showdown. The SEC Nation didn't even make it down for some crazy reason.
What?
I think because they've been to Georgia so many times. I don't know. They just did a Georgia game last week too. So, not saying it's the right decision.
Figured they give them a discount or something. You know what I'm saying?
But
like a little buffet, you just get your little star. You've been down here 3 times.
But man, there's a lot of. I've not seen anybody, Shane, outside of Mizzou fans picking Mizzou to win this game. And one thing that has me troubled, and you let me know, maybe this is a complete non-factor, but basically everybody on Georgia's team, except for Dominic Lovett, but most of them have played in these big games.
Yes.
Playoff games, SEC championships.
Right.
They played in games of this magnitude. They basically do it 2 or 3 times a season.
Yeah.
Mizzou's never been in this situation, and it's on the road. It's all this hype. Does that worry you at all that the moment will be too big for the Missouri Tigers, especially with, well, I'd like 2 weeks to rest up and prepare, but they were hot.
Yeah.
Sometimes a hot team, you don't want to take a break. So there's a couple factors here that have me a little worried about Mizzou. Does any of that worry you?
No, because I think getting healthy is important too. And some of these kids, they're playing banged up. They may not be injured, quote unquote, on the injury report, but a little extra TLC is very beneficial for these athletes. So I think there is a little silver lining. Not to mention more game break. You've had 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia Bulldogs, including any new wrinkles they threw out against the Florida Gators. So
right.
No, I'm not thinking it's a disadvantage to Wade or anything like that. This is teed up. This is teed up nicely, Mike. This is teed up very nicely. And yes, I know there's a lot of people that are shitting on, Mizzou's opportunities here, but most of them are folks that didn't watch any Missouri football games up to this point. They are pretty. I just talked to you about how prolific LSU's offense is, but golly, man, Mizzou is right there behind them.
Right. And I'm looking at the Georgia schedule right now, Shane. And here's one thing that I think Georgia fans are discounting, because I've heard this 1,000 times this week. Mizzou ain't played a defense like us.
Yeah,
which is true because they're elite.
Right.
So that's very true. Good job, dogs. But they ain't faced an offense like this.
Yeah.
They played Kentucky, and their quarterback couldn't hit the damn side of a barn.
Yeah.
They played Vanderbilt. They played Florida, which is horribly overrated. Auburn and South Carolina, which can't protect.
Right.
Rattler. Those are the offenses they faced.
Yeah.
So that maybe I'm not saying they won't be ready for Mizzou, but this is the best by far offense that they faced.
Yeah.
So I think that is something to consider going into a matchup like this as well, don't you?
I think it's important, but again, we're talking the Georgia Bulldogs. you and I have them first, and, you know, 2-time national champs. And I'm not trying to, you know, deflate anybody's balloon here, but, you know, this is a program that's not faced any opponents they were afraid of,
Right.
including this week with Mizzou. So, but on the opposite side of that, I think that's what we do is we pick apart the schedule, and it's easy to get overly excited about the matchup we saw last week with the Florida Gators. But if you remember, I did that. A lot of us did that the week before when they played South Carolina. Florida played South, you know, like, oh man, they're back. Or when Kentucky beat the shit out of Florida, we were like, oh my gosh, Kentucky is legit, you know, and then all of a sudden you find out they're not. And to you know, everything has got to go right. That one play can mess everything up. And I think it really did with Florida with that fourth down situation. It totally derailed the momentum, and who knows how close this game could have stayed. But yeah, I'm not crowning anybody because of what they've done up to this point. But truly, I think that this is the toughest opponent that Georgia's faced this year.
Yeah. Heath, again, a great comment here on the YouTubes.
Is it about my glasses?
Georgia, remember they're number 2 in the rankings. Yeah. Georgia will go number 2 on Missouri's hopes and dreams. How's it going?
Oh, I love it.
But hey, these Mizzou fans are confident, and they should be, Shane, because they've been told all, except from you, that they can't do it, that they don't belong in this league, that they should be happy being 6th in the East or whatever. Yep. And Drinkwitz is a dork and this or that, and they can't wait for their best players to transfer out. You know, they've heard all this.
Yeah.
Yet they're here, and they're high flying. They're having, again. I also think there's no pressure when everyone says you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
And I think with Brock Bowers being unavailable, I don't know if this matters too much in the game of football. That's why I love it. It's not an individual sport, but individual players can take over.
Yeah.
And Luther Burden, I think he's the best overall player that plays in this game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And not even close. This dude is, you know, Kirby would love to have him right now, you know, probably has been trying to get him since he landed on campus up there at Mizzou. So
yeah,
the dude is just an absolute beast, but he's not the only receiver. That's what's awesome about Mizzou. It's not just a one-trick pony. You know, they've got several weapons, you know, mainly in that wide receiver room. But, you know, again, I don't want to just praise Mizzou and not, you know, point out that Georgia, as shitty as their schedule may have been, there have been 2 games that we put on a pedestal, and a lot of media did too, the Kentucky matchup and the Florida matchup, and both of those guys showed up, and you could argue that was the 2 best football games they played this year. So,
right,
you know, the bigger this game becomes, you know, that's another one. You kind of wanted it to sneak under there. Like before Mizzou hit top 25, you wanted them to play Georgia. Now they got a bullseye on them.
How about this, though? Something that, you're starting to see a little bit of buzz about this, but with no Brock Bowers, if Carson Beck has another outstanding, let's say, 300 yards, 3-4 touch, whatever, and he's just the best quarterback by a country mile, is it time for him to start getting buzz for the Heisman? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it's, you know, honestly, given his current situation, he's not getting the respect because of the team he's on. And, you know, like you said, it takes big games, big plays in those matchups to kind of grab everyone's attention and say, wait a minute, maybe this ship isn't running without Beck there. Because a lot of people would argue it doesn't matter who's in quarterback. They'd still be undefeated, you know. But, you know, he did it, especially in that Kentucky matchup. You know, we saw some QB1 play there. If he does it this week, absolutely, he should be considered the best quarterback in the country.
All right,
and switching and going back off that, you know, losing Brock, I think that's the key, because I told you, you know, if there was any player on this team that was a Heisman candidate, it was Brock Bowers. And now that you've removed him and they didn't miss a beat, it's like, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it is the quarterback.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because you're the biggest dog ball I know. You get on the bandwagon the last couple weeks.
Oh, absolutely, man. I don't want to play them. I ain't gonna lie. Nobody wants to play Georgia. No,
Right.
who wants to play Georgia? I know Mizzou will come out and say, hell yeah, we want them, bring them on, but in the back of their mind, if they were going to play Mississippi dogs, they'd be like, well, yeah, give me Mississippi State right now.
You remember Alabama? Hell, it wasn't that long ago, but they used to kind of beat you getting off the bus.
Yeah.
You're scared to death of them. That's Georgia now.
It is.
Everybody's scared of Georgia.
Absolutely.
And they should be, because they got so many good athletes, and not only that, but they're coached extremely well, so deep, physical. They don't quit. They just keep pounding you. And that's the worry. That's the worry against Missouri, Tennessee, all these teams.
Yeah.
We say, well, make it a 4-quarter game. Well, in the fourth quarter, their athletes a lot fresher, because they've not been. I don't know if Carson Beck's even played in the fourth quarter of a football game yet. You know what I mean? Because they don't need him out there. You know what I mean?
That's true. I've seen a lot of Vandergriff here lately. Yeah.
All right, Shay, before we move on, we got some other matchups. We got to let the audience know, as always, we're brought to you by MyBookie. Head on over to mybookie.ag today. Put in that promo code THAT, SEC, THAT, They're willing to give you $200 free to bet with today on all these games, NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, all that. They got it you covered over at MyBookie with that promo code, that SEC. 200 cash bonus is what they're calling it, Shay. Can you believe that? 200 cash. Has anyone offered you a 200 cash bonus? If they had, I bet you took it and you went over there to MyBookie and put it on Georgia, on Mizzou, on LSU, on Alabama. I don't know who you're putting it on, but we're going to find out on Thursday. You know what?
Absolutely. And I just got bubble gum. That's all I've got for today. No, I $200, that's a lot of money, especially when you got a guy sitting over here. It's 2-0 and on fire.
Well, speaking of being on fire, Shane, that's what the Ole Miss Rebels are.
Yeah.
Number 10 in the country. A&M coming to town. Lane Kiffin trolling the hell out of Jimbo, and he should, because he owns them. But this is a matchup, Shane, that I think a lot of it, if things go right, and there's no guarantees with A&M. I mean, we basically every offseason talk about how good they can be, and they never do it. But if there's one game here where they put it all together, I think they can beat Ole Miss. I'm not saying they will, but I think they can. I think they got the talent, they got the athletes, and hell, we even got Lane Kiffin out here saying, well, this looks like a top 10 team, all this yada, yada, yada. At some point, the players got to get motivated by all this trash talking. What do you think about A&M at Ole Miss? And remember, I mean, we got these fans. They're already asking us, what about this trip to Athens? What about Georgia? Can we beat Georgia? They ain't even thinking about A&M.
Yeah.
A&M is, 5-3 right now? With 3 of their losses, 2 of them, Alabama, Tennessee, 2 top 20 teams, and Miami. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
They were good that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the good Miami.
The good Miami. So this is not some trash team or anything. If they completely overlook A&M and are looking ahead to Georgia, they'll get beat on Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't like the shit talking leading up. I don't want my coach making comments or tagging Bobby Petrino and these little. Don't do that, because last time you did that, you got your ass beat in Alabama. It just. I like you to talk shit after you leave. That's what Lane's good at. Just go to beat Texas A&M, then we move forward with some of these other key pivotal matchups. But because I saw it last week with Vanderbilt, and I told you I was a little hard on them, but these are the mistakes that I've seen programs make in the past, like Tennessee and South Carolina. It's just some self-inflicting wounds that you create because you got too cocky, you didn't work too hard in practice, and you thought you were just going to roll up and beat anybody.
Right. It's
not like that. Texas A&M's arguably has more talent than you. It depends on, what service you're looking at, but these guys are out looking for blood right now. They are out here to destroy dreams, like theirs already. So yeah, Texas A&M is a scary program right now. You don't want to. It's like a wounded dog. You don't want to go up and pet it,
Now, Ole Miss, though, Shane, they're bread and butter.
Yeah.
Running the football.
Mm-hmm.
And now Jackson Dart's heating up. Again, I've said it on this show, and it's been out there. Only team in major college football with 3 receivers with over 500 yards is Ole Miss Rebels. So, I mean, I'm not saying they can't throw it, but we all, like the Alabama game, they couldn't run it. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It was the Tulane game. They couldn't run it, and they damn near lost it. So if you're Ole Miss, knowing that A&M is so good on the defensive front, Edgerrin Cooper, many people are putting him up, the linebacker, for defensive player of the year. He's playing out of his mind as well for the Aggies. Would you kind of do a 180 and pass it to set up the run? Because I think that's the way to attack A&M, because their secondary is not nearly as good as their front seven. Tennessee's the only team that has run on A&M. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because just because it works for one team doesn't mean it'll work for the other. And I believe in that scenario with Tennessee, they were expecting a heavy dose of passing and didn't get it, and didn't need it. So Ole Miss, one thing that they are good at is exploiting defenses, and I have no doubt that Lane Kiffin is seeing the exact tape that you and I and all the fans are watching out here. They know that this secondary can be had, and these three receivers that you mentioned just should be licking their chops, because they could have a field day if they play their cards right. But that, again, is going to open up those running lanes, and that's why I think Judkins and Bentley have been so successful, even Dart himself, because once you make those three the problem, then all of a sudden you got the middle of the field, and you can just exploit and have fun. So this should be, I think it's lined up perfectly for Ole Miss. But like you said, sometimes it could be a trap game. You could be overlooking. You're thinking about Georgia. You think about all these other things that may and may not happen, and all of a sudden you're 2 scores down and playing Texas A&M. That's not where you want to be.
Now, at some point, Jimbo's going to have some pride, though, right? And be like, this bitch. We got to get him. Well, whatever they do Alabama week, that gets them so fired up and they play so well. Take that blueprint and do it against Ole Miss. You stole away their defensive. That's another storyline. Defensive coordinator DJ Durkin.
Yep.
He was working with Lane Kiffin.
Yep.
Now they got Pete Golding, who he's had his own battles with Jimbo and the Aggies. So this is one heck of a coaching matchup, I do think. But I mean, at some point, this has got to burn Jimbo up, right? Because hell, he loses this game. I'm not saying he's out of. I'm not saying they're going to fire him
right.
if you lose to number 10 Ole Miss on the road. That'd be crazy. But it would. How about the reverse, Shane? If you beat number 10 on the road, you can't win a road game to save your life. You do it by beating number 10. I think that cools his seat.
Cools it. Doesn't completely put the fire out, but definitely cools it off. But if you go up here and you get destroyed by Lane Kiffin, and especially with all the trolling he's doing before the game, imagine what's going to look like after the game. Yeah. I'm not saying Lane wants that job, but you know what I'm saying? he is clearly.
This was the game. I think it was last year, remember, where he's like something about, I can't remember exactly the comment, but it was like someone dressing for a clown. Jimbo was the clown, so I think that's what he said. I can't dress as a clown because Jimbo's already done it or something like that. Remember?
Man. Yeah. Yeah. He loves poking fun of him, So, but yeah, remember him and Nick, they're pretty tight, and
right.
All that thing fell out. So he's gonna pick on him because he messed with his dad,
Yeah. That's one of those. I could pick on him. You can't. You know
exactly.
What I mean? All right. How about this one, Shane? Kentucky at Mississippi State, both desperate to get a win.
Yeah.
Kentucky's lost 3 in a row. Mississippi State, you looked awful against Auburn. I was dumb enough to pick you to pull the upset.
Yeah. What a terrible pick.
And Kentucky's just a slight favorite. I was kind of surprised by that. Of course, they haven't won since like 2006 in Starkville. So, and they play every other year down there. So, thoughts on Kentucky at Mississippi State? Does Kentucky right the ship here?
They have to. Because, again, these fan bases have been through so much, here the last couple of years. Just emotional roller coaster. Obviously, Mississippi State, everybody knows that story. But Kentucky, again, multiple seasons of higher expectations and low results.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're on that same ride again. And I see it. I follow a lot of folks up there, and I'm not going to mention any names, but, man, they are just spinning in it right now. And talking about basketball and shit like that. They've moved on, and I don't like it because it's a very passionate fan base, and once they believe, and it could be such a great game, and that's what worries me about this one. It's like, which teams are going to show up? Are we going to have a fired up Wildcat? Are we going to have a pissed off Mississippi State team? You just don't know, and I have a feeling that this is either going to be really close or someone is going to get blown out, and I feel like the program itself will start to decay a little bit. Mississippi State's got more pressure. Arnett's got more pressure, but Stoops isn't going to lose his job for this. But there's a lot of people starting to ask him questions, kind of like Dabo. Why you get paid so much up there?
Elite commenter Danny, he says, anyone know what Mississippi State's NIL budget? And then Bobo's headset says $100. But yeah, if Kentucky loses this game, Shane, I think you're dead on. I think that the biggest, maybe not the biggest because there's so many good games, but one of the storylines, I think one of the storylines, Shane, is going to be, I was trying to look at the time here, is going to be, what the hell are we doing with Mark Stoops here? And unfortunately for him, it's a night game. I was hoping maybe it would be noon kickoff. We forget about it because that can happen. If you embarrass yourself early, and then we got Mizzou, Georgia, and something wild happened. Let's say Mizzou pulls the upset. Nobody gives a shit about Mark Stoops. LSU beats Bama. No one's going to be talking about what happened at noon. But if you lose in the night game, buddy, there's going to be a lot of talk, a lot of reaction.
Yeah.
The night games, there's always a lot more negativity there.
And not to kind of piggyback off that, there was a lot of great things that happened last week in the Tennessee matchup. We talked about the huge step forward this offense had. There's a real shot that they bounce back, and I'm not saying they're gonna, whatever, in the top 25 or whatever, but they still could make some noise here at the tail end of the season. They got Alabama right around the corner here. And, like I said, they kind of work on just a couple of things. If they tweaked it last week, they would have won. But if they tweak it over this week, there's no reason they should lose to Mississippi State.
And, you mentioned Zach Arnett. I know there's some other games we'll get to in just a second, but I don't know if you saw this, Shane. I tweeted it out, but Ross Dellinger, he works for, used to be Sports Illustrated. I think it's Yahoo now. But anyway, he does a really good job, insider, and he put out 10 jobs that, the coaching industry, there's not been one firing as a head coach in college football since the regular season, aside from Michigan State and Northwestern had scandals.
Right.
So I'm not counting those, but no one's been fired for poor performance. And he put out a list of 10 to watch that people in the coaching industry and what have you are watching. A&M, of course, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. So no surprises, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you, of those three, which one most attractive job? And I kind of wanted to throw this into it, Shane. And I'm just completely speculating here. But we got a lot of people asking us about Dabo.
Yeah.
And all that's going on in Clemson. Anybody missed it? He's calling out the fans. And one thing he did say, Shane, he's like, if they don't want me here, they ain't happy, I'll go somewhere else where they do. And I think he said something like, I'll be coaching in 10 years.
Yeah. May not be here.
May not be here. Yeah, he said something to that effect. So, let's say all three of those jobs open.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Dabo. Hell, all three of them, I would reach out.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think Dabo, it's kind of like the old Deion Sanders. They've really narrowed down the types of jobs that they would take. I don't think he would leave Clemson for Mississippi State. I don't think he would.
What about A&M?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, A&M is the job. It is an A-list job. And I know you've not gotten A-plus production out of that program, but if the stars align, we'd be talking about two-time national champs, Texas A&M. I could see that in the future.
Yeah.
They've got the money. They got the NIL. They got the facilities. They've got the passionate fan base. They've got everything. It's an A+ job. But I don't think somebody like Dabo would go to Arkansas
right.
just yet. You know.
Yeah, I think that was probably too easy. You just dunked on me on that one.
Yeah.
But all right, let's throw Kentucky into this mix, because I have heard some things, Shane, that lead me to believe that Mark Stoops is not long for Kentucky. Now that doesn't mean they're gonna fire him.
Right.
I don't think he's on any kind of hot seat or anything. But let's just say that job opens.
Yeah.
Kentucky. Let's say all of them open, and we're removing A&M.
Yeah.
Because that's such a
Okay.
But that job has all the potential in the world.
Right.
Arkansas opens, Mississippi State opens, Kentucky opens.
Hmm.
And we had this last time, Shane, because Ole Miss, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Missouri, they were all open.
Yeah.
And several of those schools went after Lane Kiffin. Several of them went after Drink. And so, you know, I guess the pecking order was determined there, but things have changed. So again, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Kentucky. Let's remove Dabo from the conversation, but just let's say a hotshot G5 coach, whatever. He's getting these SEC offers. Which job? Rank those three: Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas, most attractive
for me
today.
Yeah. Today, I'm going to go. That's tough. I'd probably go Kentucky. Kentucky, right now, today, Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi State, that order. And my only pause was Arkansas and Kentucky, those going back and forth.
Right.
You know, I would like to, I haven't really done a deep dive in the NIL situation of both those programs, but that would be a deciding factor. Not to mention, if I am a big name coming to one of those, some changes got to be made, and some more emphasis on football, especially with this, ESPN contract that's coming, or SABC,
right,
Disney contract, whatever is coming in. There's about to be some people getting paid, and I want to make sure that my student athletes are going to get the same treatment as they would in Athens, or same treatment they would get in Tuscaloosa. You know what I'm saying? The only reason I would shift to Arkansas is I do believe there's more money to be, to build things there with Arkansas internally. So
yeah,
that's where I'm going back and forth. Mississippi State's not a bad program, but we all know what they're dealing with, and not to mention having another program just down the street, it's a little bit tougher. I like Kentucky and that Cincinnati pipeline. I mean, there's so much good stuff that can happen up there. But I'm going to go Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi State right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said about the schools, but I would flip it. I'd go Arkansas.
Yeah.
For one reason, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it with Stoops, and we're seeing it with, some of the NIL comments and things of that nature. I think, and I hate when people say this because I don't agree with it, but they say Kentucky's just a basketball school.
Yeah.
And that was his whole deal with those
Right.
NIL comments. We gonna spend on basketball, or we gonna spend on football.
Right.
And
yeah,
the way he threw it out there, they're spending it on basketball. And that's their priority. They're not lately, they're not good, but they have been good at basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get it, but I think Arkansas, again, we're it's like 1A, 1B.
At least I know I'll get paid in Lexington,
Right. That's true. Well, I think they're paying their basketball coach a ton, but they both have great facilities, and similar. Like you can't stay in state to recruit. You got to go out. So there's a lot of similarities, and I think again, getting out of the West Division, I think it kind of puts them on equal footing on the scheduling model as well. But it's
plus the stadium situation, and
right.
I think it's going to help getting out of this Jerry's World thing. Another thing too, I think would be a good thing for Arkansas is Oklahoma and Texas coming in, because now you're going to have more of a pipeline into those states, and I think that's this expansion is going to help programs like Mississippi's and the Ole Misses and the teams that are sitting out there in the West that kind of been by themselves. So
I believe when Oklahoma comes in, that's going to be Norman to Fayetteville
Yeah.
is the closest Arkansas will have to another SEC campus.
Oh, see, little things like that I think are important because, when you're recruiting these kids, a lot of their family may not be able to fly up, but then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we can get there in a day. And then it becomes you don't go to Tennessee. It takes too far, so you never know what's going to motivate some of these kids to come to your school.
Right. All right. How about this one, Shane? Back to the previews here. This fascinating game to me. Arkansas, 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah.
No Dan Enos. He's out checking his email. And Georgia, Florida, in Gainesville, coming off the Georgia loss. So they're hurting a little bit. They're a favorite, but not by near. I mean, I thought it'd be 10 points or more.
Yeah.
It's less than a touchdown. And, this is one good thing. There's a lot of good things about having a young team. There's some bad things, Shane.
Yeah.
And it's inconsistency. It's how you handle disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying they're going to come out flat, but they have at multiple points this season come out and said, yeah, we were flat. We weren't ready. And if they think they can just roll the ball out against Arkansas, which I know they look pathetic against Mississippi State, but they went toe-to-toe with Bama, Ole Miss, LSU, and to an extent A&M. I think they can play with Florida.
Yeah,
I'm not sitting here saying they'll beat them in Gainesville, but how about this? This is a little. I don't know how much you believe in this type of stuff, Shane, but they made it a blackout.
Yeah,
Florida did, so they're wearing black.
I heard that.
The fans are wearing black. It's noon kickoff. It's gonna be hot as hell down there, humid. Arkansas is gonna be wearing white. I think that's an advantage for Arkansas because I think they were hoping it'd be a night game.
Yeah.
And they got screwed by the scheduling. So I'm just saying there's things that favor Arkansas in this one, believe it or not.
And that game would have been nice. I remember when those came out. They do look really good.
Yeah.
So I think
But they don't look as good in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Halloween and then now it's like, yeah, I get that. And like you said, Arkansas some time to correct some things, fix some things. And you see this a lot of times when you have a firing from a head coach or coordinator. I mean, how many times have we seen a roster, they're take one path or another, either this electrifies them, because sometimes you get one of these younger coaches that step in, and I'm not saying that's going to be the case here with Arkansas, but you may want to get one of these guys and they're just like, all right, man, we're going to open up this offense. We're going to do things that Dan didn't want to do, that Dan felt uncomfortable doing. And then you just get that little buzz again back in your locker room because, again, you only had 2 wins this season. It doesn't – you need something like this to get these kids back in it. And so, yeah, this is like as Shane would say – or I don't want to say Shane what was his name said up there Spencer, this is their Super Bowl,
Rattler, yeah.
So this is what it's kind of keyed up for.
Right. And, how much do you believe in firing Enos? Could that give energy to this team and everything? Because that was kind of the troubling thing Sam Pittman said right after he fired him. He said, we had no juice, none. And he said, he'd also say, we'd practice this such and such all week. He wouldn't call it.
Yeah. And
I don't know what the hell is up with that, but clearly, and I've heard the players basically just lost faith in Enos there in that game. And that's why because they did have a game plan. They were practicing things and they just didn't run it. Yeah. He didn't call it. And you could see the body language, no energy. Again, all that's nice. You get your teeth kicked in Florida. Yeah. None of that matters. Yeah. But if you show life, and they went to Tiger Stadium at
Absolutely.
Night. They went to Tuscaloosa, and they went toe to toe with those teams. Yeah. So they're not going to be scared by the environment. Now, at the same time, Florida desperately needs this one. They need it to be bowl eligible, Shane. And if they don't get it, Florida's looking at LSU, at Mizzou, and Florida State, which is top 4 in the playoff poll. That's their. You got to win one to get to play to a bowl game. So this feels like a must win for Florida too. That's why I think this game's got some juice to it.
I think you got and what I like about this Arkansas team is their head coach, and sometimes I think the numbers got to them this year. the whole analytics side, because that's where everybody's going,
Mhm.
analytics, AI, all this stuff, that's not Sam. Sam's emotional. Sam was a player before he was a coach. He's lived, died. He loved football. He loves college football. He loves this roster. He loves these kids. And sometimes you just gotta let loose instead of work. And I feel like that's what happened with Sam this year. Is he felt like he didn't want to make the mistake. And that's why we saw a lot of this conservative play calling. This is why we saw some of this conservative game planning. It's out, man. You got 2 wins. You got an opportunity to win back this fan base. Maybe. I mean, he's still got a long way to go, but you do that by just going out here and grip and rip, man. Just let these kids play. Let them do what they want to do. Let them play football, man.
Mhm.
And be emotional. If it's 4th and 1 on your 38 and you're looking back there at your big ass quarterback saying, I don't think we can get these 6 inches. Well, then by God, Sam, you need to hang it up, brother, because there's no reason that you can't get that against the Florida Gators. So I think this should be an emotional game for Arkansas. It needs to be an emotional game for the Razorbacks, because right now you've got a limping Florida Gators. The Florida Gators last year, Cloud 9, I may have said something different about this game, but you have an opportunity to really take the wind out of their sails. Take the life out of that fan base this weekend.
Yeah, and they're saying they've scaled back the playbook significantly. And again, I realize it's an uphill climb. It's very difficult to win in the swamp. But if you beat Florida, you got Auburn coming to town. You got FIU coming to town.
Yeah.
And then the toughest one of all, Mizzou. But they're coming to you.
Yep.
But if you win, I think you have to sell. There's hope for the postseason.
You keep him.
So
Sam's got to win out, man.
Yeah. All right, how about we can go this one a little bit quicker. It's probably not going to be too exciting. Auburn at Vanderbilt.
And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Now.
But thoughts on this matchup? I mean, Vanderbilt's just awful. But, hell, I said the same thing about Auburn about a week ago. But they showed signs of life. They have a real opportunity, too, to kind of catch fire here, Shane. Auburn's schedule, Vandy, at Arkansas, New Mexico State before the Iron Bowl.
Yeah.
So they got an opportunity to get some momentum here.
Well, we talked about the start of the season, Vanderbilt potentially making a bowl game. They'd have to win 1 or 2 of these SEC matchups, and this is the one I had circled, but I am uncircling it. I am erasing it, brother, because I think Auburn took a huge step forward last week, and Vanderbilt did not. I'm not saying they quit. There's still a lot of fight in this team, but now is the time, and I think that's what you're starting to see with Coach Lee, is starting to work out some of these younger kids, because coming in, they had one of the older rosters in the league, and just because you're older doesn't mean you're better. So I think now you're going to start seeing a little bit more of that youth in Vanderbilt, which is going to result in mistakes, but it also could result in us finding 1 or 2 key contributors moving forward for this roster. So this is got nothing to lose. No, they're not going to fire Coach Lee after this game. But I will say, on the Auburn side, you don't want to take your foot off the gas. You don't want to undo all this stuff. If people are talking about you again, and you drop one to Vandy, they're not. They'll be talking about you, but it's not in a good light.
How about UConn at Tennessee, number 17, Tennessee, Shane? I don't know if you saw this, but they're honoring Pat Summitt.
Is that true?
Not with the blue uniform.
Okay, I saw that floating around.
But they are doing something.
That AI's got me a couple of times.
But I mean, huge favorites. They got Mizzou and Georgia coming up. So for me, Shane, I would like to see Joe Milton hit a couple shots.
Yeah,
that's what I'd love to see, and then I'd love to see Nico in there.
Yeah.
That's about all I got. What about you?
Well, anybody that's followed Lady Vols hates UConn, so it doesn't matter if it's their football team they're sending over here. We still want to destroy them. But there's been some games that we've had this year that we've kind of played with our food a little bit, and we still had Joe Milton in there in the second half. We haven't had Nico. When Nico comes in, it's to pretty much hand the football off. I'd like to see a game that's knocked out by halftime so we can really see what. And maybe Coach doesn't want that, but I've been begging for it. A lot of fans have been begging for it. We want to see what our next year is going to look like.
Yeah. And then one final one, Shane, and this is interesting. Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
7-2 Jacksonville State at South Carolina. Popular upset pick, Rich Rodriguez, head coach of them. And this is Shane, this is record-breaking stuff here, breaking news. This is the first time in the history of college football that two teams named the Gamecocks are playing each other. They're the Gamecocks too. So Gamecocks are winning, right?
I'm trying to think. Rich Rod. Okay, yes. He's the one. Do you remember the cowboy video?
No.
Oh, my gosh. If you get a chance, YouTube, Rich Rod, Arizona, makes a cowboy video with his – I mean, it's freaking glorious, and it's now going to be floating around because I just thought about it. But anyway, if you get a chance, watch that. But this doesn't need to be a game, Mike. But it feels like it could be. You know what I'm saying?
How big of a man? What will they be saying if South Carolina loses this? I mean, that's unfathomable. But I've seen them lose to Furman. Not this team, but
yeah.
I mean, we've seen it.
I sent you the picture of him coming out with a cigar in his mouth. If they drop this game, Mike, I mean, this is Shane Beamer's never been on the hot seat, but it quickly becomes a hot seat if you drop to this one right here because the fans are already questioning, they're scratching their heads, they're saying, "Wait a minute, were we fooled?" You know, I'm not doing that because again, we know they were riddled with injuries. You can't create an offensive line if it doesn't exist, but you know, there's still a little hope, and you still have the opportunity to end strong and even knock off Clemson, which would be awesome. You know, Dabo, he's bleeding. That would be the final straw before he took the Arkansas job. You know,
every game, the rest of the way is a home game, and it's Vanderbilt, it's Kentucky, it's Clemson. I mean, I know I'm talking bad here, I'm talking blasphemy here, but if you win, you can go a bowl game too. Just got to win out.
Yeah,
like at home, one of the toughest places to play.
Do it. Just do it. Stop talking about it. Just go out here and do it. And I have confidence in his offense to put the points up. Defense, I have confidence for him to shut down Jacksonville State. You know, don't make this a game. Don't be one of those that it's halftime and it's tied up or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Because even if you win, we're still going to talk about you, and that's not what you want. We want to see that you took a step forward here. You know, Texas A&M was a tough-fought game. You hung in there, but, you know, you took a massive step forward this week. And like you said, we're looking at saying South Carolina has a shot to do something here in November, finish the season strong, get those extra practices, which they really need. And, again, a feather in Shane's cap and turning the season around at the end.
Yeah, and it feels to me, Shane, like this is one of those where, you know, fans are like, "Oh, it's upset alert," and then South Carolina just beats the hell out of them. It's the upset ones are the ones we don't even talk about.
Right?
We're just like Tennessee, Georgia State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's those ones you don't see coming.
Yeah.
That get you.
Don't you ever use those words in this house, boy.
I don't think it's these games. I think if anything, that talk puts the Gamecocks, the real Gamecocks, on alert.
Yeah.
And they take it seriously because they know they can't screw around against a team like this. You know what I mean? So I think South Carolina will whoop them.
Yeah.
All right, brother. We went a little bit long. Anything else before we hop off the line?
No. Go get some Halloween candy, you know. I always like to go the next day when it's on sale.
Yeah. I should have thought of that with all these damn decorations.
Yeah. Fat and smart. Remember that.
Well, buddy, I appreciate you. As always, I appreciate all y'all for tuning in, especially those on the live stream. I know this is a little unusual on a Tuesday, but happy Halloween to everybody out there. Hope you had a good one, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.